Have you ever met someone who walks into a room and says almost nothing, yet somehow everyone notices? They don't chase attention. They don't speak loudly. They don't try to be charming. And still there's something about them. Something calm, composed, magnetic. That's silent attractiveness. It's not about being the loudest in the room. It's about being the most grounded. Not about impressing others, but about being so deeply at peace with yourself that others feel it. True attractiveness doesn't come from trying harder. It comes from letting go of what doesn't matter and leaning into what does. This kind of presence, silent, strong, and magnetic, doesn't require perfect looks or clever words. It requires habits. Subtle ones, powerful ones, timeless ones. And in this episode, we're diving into 11 socially magnetic habits inspired by Stoic philosophy, habits that don't just change how others see you, but how you see yourself. If you've ever felt invisible or unsure of how to show up with confidence without pretending to be someone else, this is for you. You're about to discover how to cultivate real presence, not by becoming louder, but by becoming clearer. And it all begins with one essential shift. Habit 1: embrace authentic independence. There's something undeniably magnetic about a person who doesn't need the room to approve of them. Not because they're arrogant, but because they're anchored. Stoics understood this well. Epictetus taught, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. And the first form of freedom is freedom from needing others to validate you. Independence, in this sense, isn't isolation. It's integrity. It's knowing who you are and living from that center. When you cultivate authentic independence, people feel it. You stop trying to impress. You stop chasing validation. And ironically, people start being drawn to you even more. Why? Because deep down, we all want to feel safe. And a person who is at peace with themselves is the safest energy in any room. Here's what it looks like. You walk into a gathering, you're not scanning the room for approval. You're not measuring your worth by how many people talk to you. You're simply there, calm, observant, fully yourself. That kind of self-minus possession is rare. Most people are constantly performing, adjusting themselves based on who's watching. But when you become grounded in your own values, you no longer shape minus shift for approval. You walk your path. You know your values. You trust your voice even when it's quiet. Let me give you a practice. Start asking yourself before every decision, am I doing this because it aligns with my values or because I want someone's approval? And then act accordingly. It's hard, especially if you've been conditioned to please. But every time you choose your truth over approval, your confidence grows. And that quiet confidence, it lingers. It doesn't need applause. It doesn't need a spotlight. It simply is. That's what makes it attractive. Marcus Aurelius wrote, the tranquility that comes when you stop caring what they say, or think, or do. Only what you do. You become magnetic, not by trying to stand out, but by refusing to fade into anything you're not. You respect yourself. You move with intention. You don't need the world to clap because you're already proud of how you show up. And that's what people feel when they're around you. It's silent, but it's undeniable. If this first habit resonates, share it with someone who's still chasing approval. They might need this shift more than they realize. Habit to master the art of silent elegance. Imagine someone who walks into a room not with noise, not with flair, but with calm, deliberate movement. Their steps are sure. Their eyes steady. Their gestures graceful, never rushed, never forced. They don't speak much, but when they do, people listen. That's silent elegance. It's not about what you wear or how much you talk. It's about how you carry yourself. It's about the energy you bring, calm, intentional, composed. Stoicism teaches that inner peace reflects in outward behavior. Seneca once said, "Let your outward appearance be simple and dignified, reflecting the serenity of your mind." Silent elegance is that reflection. In a world of noise and performance, elegance is rebellion. It says, I don't need to compete for attention, I am attention in motion. It's subtle. It's refined. It's deeply attractive. Let's break it down. It starts with body language. Most people rush. Their movements are tense. Their energy is scattered. But when you move with awareness slowly, intentionally, you signal something rare: control. Not control over others. Control over yourself. Stand tall, not stiff. Make eye contact, not to dominate, but to connect. Use stillness, not fidgeting, to project calm. Every gesture should feel like it has purpose, even silence. This is where the Stoics and samurai strangely meet. Both knew stillness is power. And power, when silent, becomes magnetism. Next comes behavior. Silent elegance isn't about being cold or aloof. It's about being present. Greet people warmly. Listen attentively. Move with grace in how you treat everyone, not just those who can benefit you. Kindness delivered with composure, not neediness, becomes respect. And respect is deeply attractive. When you walk through the world with this kind of elegance, you don't need to prove your worth. It speaks before you do. And people can feel it. But here's something most don't realize. Elegance isn't natural for most people. It's practiced. It's in the details. How you place your phone down during a conversation. How you respond when someone interrupts you. How you pause before answering a tough question. These tiny moments build your aura. Here's an exercise. Spend one full day moving 15% slower than you usually would. Walking, talking, turning your head, reacting. Slow everything down. You'll notice two things. You'll feel more in control. People will respond to your presence differently, more attentively, more respectfully. Why? Because slowness signals security. Security in yourself. In the moment. And not needing to rush to prove anything. Silent elegance also shows in how you speak. You don't need to use fancy words. You just need to speak from clarity. When you speak less and more intentionally, your words carry more weight. And when you don't speak at all, sometimes that's the most powerful response of all. As Epictetus said, be silent or let your words be worth more than silence. That's the heart of this habit. Not trying to impress. Not trying to dominate. Just being so in tune with yourself that your energy does the talking. Let me give you a scene. A group of people is talking, debating, interrupting each other. One person is quiet, not out of fear, but observation. When they finally speak, everyone listens. Because their silence has built anticipation. Because their calm created contrast. That's what elegance looks like in real life. Not being everywhere, but being felt wherever you are. So ask yourself, am I moving through life with grace or reactivity? Do I let silence do some of the talking? Is my presence a reflection of peace or tension? You don't need to wear luxury to be elegant. You just need to carry yourself like someone who doesn't chase but chooses. Someone who doesn't shout but speaks with presence. And that is a language the world never forgets. Habit 3. Let your details speak louder than words. Imagine passing someone in a hallway. You don't exchange words, just a moment, a presence. But something about them stays with you. It might be the clean, subtle scent. The way their clothes fit, not loud, but thoughtful. The neat grooming. The posture. The calm air. You can't explain why, but you remember them. That's the power of invisible details, the kind that whisper instead of shout. And one of the most underrated forms of silent attractiveness is refined attention to detail. We're not talking vanity. We're talking care. When you pay attention to the small things, not for attention, but for alignment, people feel it. Stoics believed your outer life should reflect your inner order. Seneca wrote, let your external be simple and dignified, a mirror of the mind. That includes scent. Think of it like this: when someone smells good, not overpowering, not artificial, just subtly present. It creates an instant memory. It says, I'm intentional. I care about how I move through the world. I respect the space I share with others. That's powerful. But it's not just scent. It's all the invisible things. A well-minus kept appearance not for trends, but for self-minus respect. Clean shoes. A tidy bag. Pressed clothing. Breath that's fresh. Nails that are clean. Hair that's groomed. You're not trying to stand out. You're simply not neglecting yourself. And in a world full of noise and distraction, this kind of quiet discipline becomes unforgettable. Because details signal discipline. Discipline signals character. And character is where real attraction begins. Let me give you an image. Two people walk into a cafe. One is loud, dressed to impress. Flashy scent. Big gestures. The other is calm, quietly dressed. Subtle scent. Effortless presence. Guess who gets remembered? The second. Because they're not demanding attention, they're earning curiosity. That's the paradox of refinement. Now here's where Stoicism deepens the idea. This habit isn't about becoming polished on the outside while chaotic on the inside. It's about alignment. What people see should reflect who you really are becoming. You care for your body because you care for your mind. You dress intentionally not to hide, but to express self-minus respect. You move with care because you live with care. Everything becomes a message. Even your silence. So how do you begin? Step 1, choose a subtle scent that reflects you. Not the trendiest. Not the loudest. Something that feels calm, clean, and quietly elegant. Something you would wear alone. Step 2, audit your grooming. Are you presenting yourself in a way that shows self-minus respect even on ordinary days? Step 3, look at the non-minus obvious things. Are you showing up 1% more refined than yesterday? Are you treating your appearance as an extension of your inner clarity? It's not about becoming obsessive. It's about becoming intentional. Even the smallest refinement, like trimming your nails, upgrading your soap, or organizing your bag, sends a message to your subconscious. I am someone worth caring for. And others will sense it even if they can't explain why. You'll become the kind of person who lingers in memory. Not because of what you said, but because of what your presence said without words. And that is silent attraction in its purest form. Habit for be fully present, the rarest gift in the modern world. Let's be honest. Most people aren't really here. They're half in the room, half in their phones. Half listening, half rehearsing what they'll say next. Their eyes flicker. Their attention drifts. Their energy feels split. But then, you meet someone different. They look you in the eye. They pause when you speak. They're not rushing to talk, to impress, to escape. They're just here. And instantly you feel something rare. Connection. That's the silent magnetism of presence. Not showy. Not loud. Just powerful. In a distracted world, presence is rebellion. The Stoics knew this well. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Confine yourself to the present." Why? Because the present is the only place where you're alive, where anything real can happen. Presence makes people feel seen. And feeling seen? That's the foundation of all human attraction. You don't need pickup lines. You don't need perfect words. You just need to be where you are fully. Think of it like this. You're having coffee with someone. They nod as you speak, but glance at their phone every few seconds. You finish your sentence. They reply, "Wait, what did you say?" Now reverse it. Same coffee. But this time, they're focused. Their eyes don't wander. Their replies are thoughtful. You feel heard. Which version creates connection? Exactly. Presence is power because it tells people, you matter. I'm here. I'm not running. And that kind of energy? It's magnetic. Now here's the catch. Being present is hard. Not because you don't want to be, but because you've trained your brain to split, to scroll, to plan, to react. But presence is a muscle. And the more you practice it, the more powerful it becomes. Here's how. Step 1 in every conversation, put your phone away. Not face minus down. Not silenced. Away. Show with action that this moment matters more than the notifications. Step 2, listen without waiting to talk. Don't plan your reply while they're speaking. Just listen. Fully. Trust that your response will rise when it's needed. Step 3, observe deeply. Notice tone. Body language. The feeling behind the words. People often say more with their eyes than their mouths. Step 4, breathe. Literally. Use your breath to anchor you back to the moment. When your mind drifts, return to the inhale. Then the exhale. Presence is a gift not just to others, but to yourself. When you're present, life becomes richer. Conversations deepen. Relationships bloom. And most of all, you feel alive. And here's the paradox. The more present you become, the more attractive you are. Why? Because people crave grounding. They crave calm. They crave someone who isn't chasing attention but offering attention. That's rare. And rare is attractive. Let me give you a story. A man once walked into a room filled with executives, influencers, and high-minded status personalities. He barely spoke. But when he did, everyone leaned in. Why? Because he was scattered. He was trying to impress. He was completely there. And people could feel it. He asked questions. He paused before replying. He didn't rush to fill silence, he let it breathe. By the end of the evening, everyone remembered him. Not for dominating the space, but for honoring him. That's what presence does. It leaves a mark not through noise, but through attention. So ask yourself, am I truly present or just physically here? Do people feel more calm after talking to me or more drained? When I listen, do I really listen, or am I waiting to speak? If you want to become unforgettable not for what you say, but for how people feel around you, practice presence. It costs nothing, but it changes everything. In a loud world, become the quiet anchor. The one who's fully here when no one else is. And that presence? It will draw people to you in ways you never expected. Habit 5, leave space for mystery, the quiet, allure of the unknown. In a world where everyone overshares, broadcasts every opinion, and explains every move, there's something quietly captivating about a person who doesn't reveal everything. They speak, but never too much. They share, but never too soon. They hold a part of themselves back. And that subtle restraint? It makes others lean in. That's the power of mystery. Not the kind that's manipulative, but the kind that's magnetic because it leaves room for curiosity. Mystery says, there's more to me than what you see. And in a culture obsessed with transparency, mystery becomes luxury. Think about the most compelling people you've ever met. Were they the ones who spilled everything in the first 5 minutes? Or the ones who made you want to know more without trying? Exactly. Mystery isn't about hiding who you are. It's about owning who you are so fully, you don't feel the need to explain it all. The Stoics knew this. Epictetus taught, be silent or let your words be worth more than silence. He wasn't just talking about restraint in conflict. He was pointing to a deeper principle. Your presence should speak before your mouth does. Mystery is the art of choosing when to speak and how much to reveal. Let me clarify something. Mystery doesn't mean being cold or distant. It means being disciplined in your expression. You don't owe the world access to your inner life. You get to choose what's sacred. In fact, when you share everything too quickly, you dilute your story. But when you reveal pieces over time, people listen more carefully. Because scarcity creates value. Mystery also shows up in action. You don't always explain your decisions. You move with purpose even if people don't get it yet. And that quiet confidence? It makes others watch more closely. They don't understand you completely, and that's what keeps them curious. Let me give you an image. You're at a dinner. Someone is loud, charismatic, and entertaining. Everyone laughs, nods, engages. But at the end of the night, they're forgotten. Then there's someone else. They spoke less. They smiled more. They listened deeply, and when they did speak, it was with thoughtfulness. People leave the dinner remembering that person. Why? Because their presence created space for curiosity, for respect, for mystery. Here's how to cultivate this habit. Step 1. Stop explaining everything. You don't need to justify your boundaries, your silence, or your choices. If they don't get it, let them wonder. Step 2. Share in layers, not dumps. Let people learn the next chapter of your story. Give the gift of discovery, not delivery. Step 3. Practice meaningful silence. When you feel the urge to fill the space, pause. Let your calm speak louder than chatter. Step 4. Live a layered life. Pursue interests, skills, and passions that not everyone knows about. When people get to know you, they should feel like they're unlocking hidden depth, not reading a single -page resume. You'll notice something powerful. The less you try to impress, the more people become intrigued. Because mystery isn't about withholding to manipulate. It's about respecting yourself enough to keep some things sacred. That energy is attractive because it's rare. Let me offer one last thought. You don't have to be mysterious for the sake of others. Be mysterious for the sake of your own soul. Not everything needs to be shared to be real. Not everything needs to be seen to be valuable. Hold some things close. Let them mature in the dark. And when you do share, let it be deliberate. So the next time you're tempted to overshare for validation, remember, silence can be more seductive than sound. Depth doesn't announce itself. And mystery isn't about what you hide, it's about what you honor. Be someone others want to know, not because you perform, but because you leave something beautifully unsaid. Habit 6. Cultivate cultural wisdom, the quiet depth that sets you apart. There's a kind of person who doesn't just speak, they add value. They don't dominate conversations. They don't need to be the smartest voice in the room. But when they speak, people pause. Why? Because their words carry something rare, depth. Not trivia. Not ego. But lived insight. This is what happens when you cultivate cultural wisdom. It's a quiet intelligence. Not loud. Not showy. But deeply magnetic. Because in a world drowning in shallow noise, someone who brings thoughtful perspective becomes unforgettable. Let's define it. Cultural wisdom isn't just about knowing facts about different places or quoting philosophers. It's about having a wide lens, the ability to see the world from different angles. It's about understanding people, history, emotion, and behavior, and using that understanding to connect, not to impress. It's empathy fused with insight. And when someone embodies that, they become a voice of calm, of clarity, of balance. The Stoics lived this. Marcus Aurelius was not just a philosopher, he was an emperor, ruling over a diverse empire filled with people, cultures, and crises. His wisdom came not from theory, but from reflection, from stepping back, from asking what is true beyond this moment. That's cultural wisdom. It's the ability to zoom out, to see the bigger picture when everyone else is stuck in small reactions. Let me give you an example. You're in a conversation. A friend says something you completely disagree with. Most people either argue or shut down. But someone with cultural wisdom, they pause. They ask, where's this belief coming from? What have they seen, lived, or inherited that makes this feel true for them? And in that pause, connection opens. Not agreement. Not approval. but understanding. And understanding is one of the most attractive things you can offer. Here's why. When people feel seen without being judged, they let their guard down. They open up. They remember you not for being agreeable, but for being open. And that openness, it's rare. And rare is magnetic. Here's how you begin cultivating this habit. Step 1. Read beyond your circle. Don't just consume content that reflects your beliefs. Read authors from different cultures, histories, ideologies. Let yourself be challenged not because you'll agree, but because you'll grow. Step 2. Listen longer than feels comfortable. When someone shares an opinion that triggers you, don't jump in. Let them finish. Then, ask why. Dig beneath the words. There's almost always a story underneath. Step 3. Travel in your mind, if not in your body. Watch films from other countries. Read biographies. Explore global perspectives. The broader your exposure, the deeper your empathy. Step 4. Practice humility. Cultural wisdom begins when you admit, I don't know everything. And here's the paradox. The more you accept how little you know, the more deeply people trust your voice. Because you speak without arrogance. You offer insight, not instruction. You ask more than you answer. And in doing so, you become someone people feel safe around. Not just admired. Trusted. That's the foundation of attraction, not performance, but presence. Let me tell you a real -world story. There was a woman at a corporate event. She didn't dress to stand out. Didn't speak over anyone. But when a debate arose, she asked a question that reframed the entire room. Not a loud question. Not a challenging one. Just a thoughtful, open-minded reflection tied to a book she'd read about another culture's approach to leadership. The room shifted. People leaned in. Conversations deepened. And by the end of the night, she had connected more meaningfully than the loudest voice in the room. Why? Because wisdom resonates. Even quietly. Especially quietly. Now here's the Stoic layer. Wisdom isn't about accumulating knowledge. It's about how you live what you do know. Marcus Aurelius wrote, waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be what? Cultural wisdom isn't for display. It's for embodiment. You don't need to prove your intelligence. You need to live it. Speak when your words serve. Listen when your presence is enough. Offer perspective only when it helps the moment deepen. And over time, people won't remember you for being smart. They'll remember how your words made them think. How your presence made them feel understood. How your silence made space for reflection. Ask yourself this. Do my conversations bring depth or just opinions? Am I open to being changed by what I learn? Do I speak to impress or to connect? The answers will show you exactly where your growth lies. And as you grow, you'll notice. People seek your voice not because it's loud, but because it carries something real. Something steady. Something earned. That's what cultural wisdom becomes. Not a trophy, but a texture. Not noise, but signal. You become the calm in a chaotic room. The bridge between perspectives. The one people remember not for taking over, but for tuning in. So cultivate that. Quietly. Consistently. And you'll discover. You don't need to say much to be unforgettable. Habit 7. Practice emotional restraint, the calm that commands respect. Picture this. You're in a conversation, and things get heated. Someone throws a subtle jab. Someone misinterprets your words. Or maybe someone just wants a reaction. Most people would defend. Argue. Raise their voice. Make sure they're heard. But then there's you. You pause. You breathe. You don't take the bait. And in that quiet pause, you gain the entire room. That's emotional restraint. It's one of the most silently attractive habits a person can develop. Not because it makes you passive, but because it makes you powerful. The Stoics lived by this. They believe the strongest person isn't the one who wins every argument, but the one who doesn't need to fight every time. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." You can tell a lot about someone by how they respond to disrespect. Do they crumble? Do they over-explain? Do they fight for validation? Or do they remain composed knowing that not every situation requires a reaction? Let me be clear, emotional restraint is not suppression. You're not bottling up your feelings. You're acknowledging them and choosing how and when to express them. It's controlled fire, not emotional wildfire. And that control, it's rare. It's subtle. It's attractive. Because it tells the world, "I'm not moved by your chaos. I'm moved by my values." That level of self-command is something people feel. It shows up in your face, the softness of your eyes when others are tense. It shows up in your breath steady while others are gasping. It shows up in your words, thoughtful, measured, necessary. Let's break it down into practice. Step 1, breathe before you respond. Even one slow inhale and exhale creates space between the trigger and the choice. It interrupts the automatic reaction, and that interruption is freedom. Step 2, question the urgency. Most heated reactions come from a false sense of "I have to say something now." You don't. You can respond later or not at all. Step 3, choose your tone like currency. Every word, every gesture either builds your credibility or drains it. Speak when it adds, not when it subtracts. Step 4, rehearse your higher self. In quiet moments, visualize how your most composed, future self would respond in tense situations. Rehearsing grace builds muscle memory. Now let's take a real-world story. There was a man in a business meeting. His idea was subtly mocked by a competitor in front of the entire room. All eyes turned to him. Everyone expected a sharp comeback, a defense, a power play. Instead, he smiled slightly, nodded, and said, "Let's stay focused on solutions. I think we all want the same outcome. No drama. No ego. Just focus. Just poise." Guess what happened? The conversation shifted. Respect deepened. And behind closed doors, even people who didn't speak in the room began to trust his leadership. Why? Because restraint communicates something stronger than ominous discipline. And discipline is attractive. In relationships, it shows up like this. You don't send the angry text. You don't match their sarcasm. You don't collapse into over-explaining. You pause. You step back. You let clarity return. People may not say it, but they feel it. This person is safe. Not because they're soft, but because they're solid. You become the emotional anchor, not the emotional amplifier. And here's a deeper truth. When you stop reacting to every offense, every disagreement, every jam, people begin to see you differently. You become trustworthy. You become stable. You become someone whose silence carries more weight than most people's noise. That's what emotional restraint creates. Authority without force. Presence without performance. Power without posturing. Let's take it further. In dating, people are drawn to what they can't easily provoke. The person who doesn't flinch at every moment of uncertainty. Who doesn't spiral when plans change. Who listens more than defends. Who speaks when it's time, not when they're triggered. That person becomes irresistible. Because in a world of people constantly reacting, the one who chooses their response becomes rare. And rare is unforgettable. So ask yourself, do I react to respond? Do I protect my energy or hand it over to anyone who provokes me? Do I speak from clarity or from emotional noise? Emotional restraint isn't about being robotic. It's about being conscious. It's about saying, I choose me my peace, my clarity, my presence over proving anything to someone who has turned that energy. And when you do that consistently, you stop chasing respect. You start commanding it. Quietly, elegantly, effortlessly, because the person who doesn't need to be loud already is heard without saying a word. Habitate, be calmly decisive, the quiet confidence that builds trust. We've all seen it. A moment comes when a decision needs to be made. Most people hesitate. They look around. They wait for consensus. They second-minus guess, overthink, or avoid the responsibility altogether. But then someone steps forward. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just clearly. They don't rush. They don't waver. They assess, they act, and they move on. That's calm decisiveness, and it's one of the rarest, most silently attractive habits you can embody. Because it signals something powerful. I trust myself and I can be trusted. And trust, when combined with calm energy, becomes magnetic. The Stoics were masters of this. They didn't seek control over everything, they sought mastery over themselves. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. That clarity of values, of action, is what creates decisiveness. Here's what most people get wrong. They think decisiveness means aggression. It doesn't. It means alignment. You know what you believe. You know what matters. And when a choice appears, you're able to make it with clarity, not chaos. Let's take a situation. You're with a group of people trying to decide where to go next to dinner, an event, anything. Everyone is caught in indecision. But you say, let's do this. We'll book it now unless anyone objects in the next 60 seconds. That calm leadership without needing to dominate shifts the energy. Suddenly, people feel safe. Someone is holding the space. That's attractive. Because people are tired of guessing. They're drawn to those who make space feel simple. Here's a deeper reason why this habit is magnetic. Most people are secretly overwhelmed. Their minds are full. Their schedules packed. Their thoughts scattered. So when they meet someone who is centered, who moves through life like they've already filtered out the noise, it's refreshing. It's like standing next to a clear lake while the rest of the world is traffic. You become that lake, still, reflective, and steady. But here's the truth. Calm decisiveness is a practice. It doesn't come from being perfect. It comes from knowing what matters most and acting from that place consistently. Let's walk through how to build it. Step 1. Define your core values. Most indecision comes from not knowing what matters more. When your values are clear: kindness, honesty, clarity, simplicity, you can make decisions faster and with more peace. Step 2. Shrink the timeline. Set a limit on how long you'll think about things that don't matter deeply. If it's reversible or low-minus stakes, decide within minutes, not hours. Step 3. Detach from perfect outcomes. Perfectionism kills decisiveness. Stoics knew you can only control your action, not the result. Make the best decision you can now, and trust yourself to adapt later. Step 4. Speak with clarity. When you express a decision, do so without fluff. Don't over-minus apologize. Don't over-minus explain. Say, this feels right to me. Let's try it. That tone builds quiet authority. Let's go deeper. There's a concept in Japanese Zen called shibumi, the beauty of quiet refinement, understated power, and effortless effectiveness. It's the man who says little, but everything he says moves things forward. It's the woman who doesn't interrupt, but when she speaks, people pause. You can cultivate that by moving from urgency to clarity. Let urgency be for emergencies. But for everything else, breathe. Center. Change. Even if you're unsure, let your tone be calm. Because confidence isn't certainty. Confidence is presence. It's saying, I may not know the future, but I know what it'll do next. And that's steadiness. That's leadership. That's self-minus respect. That's what makes people feel safe around you in business, in friendship, in love. Let me share a story. There was a woman who always struggled with indecision. She had asked everyone's opinion before making even small choices. People loved her but rarely respected her leadership. One day, her mentor told her, "Start acting like your future self is watching." So she did. She began making small decisions without debate. Ordering for the table. Picking the next movie. Speaking first when everyone hesitated. The shift was subtle, but over time, people leaned on her more. Trusted her judgment. Admired her steadiness. Not because she had all the answers, but because she owned her voice. You can do the same. Don't wait to feel certain. Decide to be clear enough. Don't wait to be impressive. Just be anchored. The world doesn't need more noise. It needs people who speak from alignment, not anxiety. So ask yourself, do I trust my own voice or wait for everyone else to lead me? Do I delay simple choices out of fear of making the wrong one? Do I lead from ego or from service and calm clarity? You don't need to be loud. You just need to be sure enough. And the more you practice this, the more you'll notice. People turn to you. They ask for your take. They follow your lead not because you ask them to, but because your calm energy makes it easy to trust you. That's what makes someone attractive. Not flash. Not perfection. Just quiet certainty. So walk with it. Lead with it. And let your clarity speak louder than volume ever could. Habit 9, stay grounded and praise the elegance of not needing applause. There's something quietly captivating about a person who isn't moved by praise. They receive compliments with grace. They acknowledge success without inflating. They're noticed by many, but seem to need the attention of no one. And that detachment, that steady calm, even in the face of applause, is rare. Because most people, they crave recognition. They build their self-minus worth around being liked, praised, applauded. But the more they chase it, the more unstable they become. Because once you build your confidence on the external, you become its prisoner. What happens when the praise disappears? What happens when someone doesn't clap? What happens when no one's watching? The Stoics knew this trap well. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily. Ambition means tying your well-minus being to what other people say or do. Sanity means tying it to your own actions. In other words, confidence rooted in applause is like building a house on sand. But confidence rooted in self-minus respect? That's stone. Let me give you a real minus world picture. A man gives a presentation. It goes well. People applaud. Compliments come in. One version of him soaks it up, checks for validation, needs the praise to feel enough. Another version of him receives the compliments with a quiet smile. Says, "Thank you," and moves on, not because he doesn't appreciate it, but because his worth was striding on it. Which one feels more powerful? Which one feels more attractive? Exactly. There's something unshakable about a person who doesn't inflate when praised, just as they don't shrink when criticized. That balance, that emotional evenness, is what Stoics call equanimity. And it's magnetic. Let's talk about what this habit isn't. It's not humility in the self-minus deprecating sense. It's not brushing off every compliment like you're not worthy. It's not pretending to be small. It's owning your value without needing it to be constantly reflected back at you. That subtle energy shift changes everything. You become the person who really believes in, knows what they bring to the table, doesn't need to announce it, doesn't get high off likes, claps, or reposts. Because your self-minus respect is self-minus generated. That's what makes you attractive not just to others, but to yourself. Here's how to build this kind of confidence. Step 1. Separate appreciation from attachment. Appreciate praise, enjoy it even, but don't need it. Let it pass through you, not become you. Step 2. Track effort, not applause. At the end of each day, ask, did I act with clarity? Did I show up fully? Praise may or may not come. But integrity, that's always yours. Step 3. Practice quiet celebration. When you win, acknowledge it, but don't broadcast it for approval. Chat with your inner circle. Smile inwardly. Let the reward be doing the work well. Step for step with the silence. Sometimes you'll give your best and no one will notice. That's where real confidence is born, when you still feel proud, even when it's invisible to others. Let me tell you a short story. There was a young musician. She posted her work online every week. For months, no comments, no traction. But she kept going. Not because the world clapped, but because the music felt right in her bones. Eventually, the work began to spread. And when success came, she was ready. Not hungry. Not needy. Just grounded. Someone asked her, "How do you stay so calm now that people finally see you?" She replied, "Because I saw me first." That's the mindset. You don't reject praise, but you don't become addicted to it either. You simply allow it like weather. It passes through, but it doesn't change your foundation. Here's a truth most won't admit. The most desperate energy in the world is someone who needs to be admired. You can feel it in their tone, in how they insert themselves, in how they inflate every story, every win. And people may cheer, but deep down, they don't trust that person. Why? Because insecurity dressed in confidence always reveals itself. But a person who doesn't need to be admired, that person is respected. Not because they demand it, but because they carry themselves in a way that says, "I'm enough," with or without your applause. That tone, that quiet conviction, is what makes people lean in. So ask yourself, do I only feel valuable when others notice me? Do I share from alignment or to be approved? Can I keep moving even when no one claps? If the answer is yes, you're rewalking the Stoic path. Because the most attractive people aren't waiting for applause. They're already living in alignment. And that steady, quiet, unshakable self minus respect is the kind of power the world never forgets. Habit 10. Respond selectively. The rare power of emotional economy. Most people respond to everything. Every opinion. Every look. Every message. Every piece of drama. They react instinctively like emotional pinballs, bouncing from trigger to trigger. But then, there's someone different. Someone who moves slowly when others rush. Someone who speaks when it adds value, not when they're provoked. Someone who knows that not everything deserves a response. That's emotional economy. And it's one of the clearest signs of self-minus mastery and silent attractiveness. Because when you respond selectively, you're telling the world something profound. My energy is valuable, and I don't spend it cheaply. That kind of presence, people feel it before you say a word. The Stoics understood this deeply. They trained themselves not just to control their emotions, but to choose when to engage. Epictetus said, "If someone provokes you, remember it is not the event itself, but your judgment of it that causes disturbance. And you can revoke that judgment at any moment." That's the superpower. Disengaging not because you're weak, but because you're wise. In our world, reacting to everything is normalized. It's even rewarded on social media, in conversation, in conflict. People expect instant replies, instant outrage, instant takes. But you choose silence, or stillness, or simply walking away. And that quiet refusal to be pulled into the noise, it creates respect. Let me show you how this looks in practice. Someone throws a passive minus aggressive comment at you. Most people fire back or try to correct the narrative. Yeah? You pause. You smile. You say, "Noted." Or maybe nothing at all. And that silence, it's louder than any comeback. Because it says, "And not available for every battle. I choose which hill to die on in this, isn't it?" Or let's say someone gossips in front of you. They bait you with judgment, hoping you'll join. You change the subject. Or you excuse yourself. No drama. No lecture. Just boundaries. Again, your silence speaks. Your absence from the emotional chaos becomes your signature. Here's the truth. The person who doesn't respond to everything feels powerful. Because they are powerful. They've stopped outsourcing their peace. Here's how to develop this kind of restraint. Step 1. Pause before you speak. Always. Even 2 seconds can interrupt your impulse to react. In that pause, ask, will this matter tomorrow? Step 2. Create internal filters. Decide ahead of time, what kind of energy am I willing to engage with today? If it's not aligned with peace or purpose, let it pass. Step 3. Practice dignified silence. You don't have to explain your silence. You don't owe people a reaction. Make non-minus response your boundary. Step 4. Watch others and learn. Notice who reacts to everything. See the energy drain. Then notice those who conserve their reactions and the weight their words carry when they do speak. There's a kind of elegance in non-minus reactivity. Not avoidance. Not coldness. But clarity. You're not avoiding conflict. You're avoiding wasting yourself. Let me tell you a story. A quiet man was in a group chat where everyone debated constantly. News, politics, lifestyle, opinions. He rarely spoke. But when he did, it was thoughtful, concise, neutral. Over time, people started waiting to hear his take because it wasn't impulsive. His restraint gave his words weight. And when he disagreed, he didn't argue, he asked questions. That's attractive, because it's rooted in presence, not performance. Now here's the deeper layer. When you stop reacting to everything externally, something beautiful happens internally. Your mind gets quieter. You're no longer overstimulated by every passing thought, comment, or piece of gossip. You create space for insight, for peace, for actual thinking. That space? That's where your real power lies. And others can sense it. They may not say it, but they feel safer around you. They trust you more. They lean in not because you demand attention, but because you carry clarity. So ask yourself, do I treat every comment like it deserves my emotional energy? Do I get pulled into debates that don't matter? Am I using my words to react or to guide? If the answer isn't what you want, that's your edge. Start with the next moment. Let someone else have the last word. Let the comments slide. Let the silence speak for you. Because here's the paradox. The person who doesn't respond to everything is the one whose response matters most when they finally speak. That's the economy of emotion. That's the stillness that makes you unforgettable. Habit 11. Be unapologetically yourself, the gravity of inner alignment. Imagine this. You're in a room full of people trying to impress. They adjust their voice. They shift their opinions. They mirror others, hoping to belong. They want to be liked at all costs. And then someone enters. Not louder. Not flashier. But real. They don't try to win approval. They don't shrink to make others comfortable. They don't exaggerate who they are or hide it either. They just are. And that effortless self-minded possession, that unapologetic alignment, it draws people in like gravity. Because the rarest energy in the room is authenticity, especially the kind that doesn't need validation to stay intact. That's what Stoics meant by living according to nature. Not nature as in trees and rivers, but your true nature. The soul of who you are when the masks come off. The values you live by when no one is watching. The truth you carry even when it's inconvenient. Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." In other words, stop performing. Start being. Because here's what most people don't understand. The moment you bend who you are for approval, you start disconnecting from your power. The more you try to please everyone, the more invisible you become. But when you stand in your own lane, even quietly, people feel it. Let's break this down. Being unapologetically yourself doesn't mean being stubborn. It means being centered. You're open to learning, open to growth, but not open to becoming a stranger to yourself. That's the balance. You listen, but you don't absorb everything. You evolve, but you don't abandon your values. You adjust, but never contort to fit in. That self-minded respect. It speaks even when you're silent. Here's how this shows up in real life. You're not the loudest voice, but you never fake agreement. You laugh when you actually find something funny, not just to blend in. You share your truth not aggressively, but without apology. You walk away from conversations that dishonor your values without needing to win. That kind of consistency builds something rare: trust. Not just in others, but within yourself. You stop guessing your own voice. You stop walking away from situations asking, "Did I show up as me?" You know you did. And that alignment becomes magnetic. Let me tell you a story. There was a man, quiet, thoughtful, soft-minded, spoken. In every social circle, people told him to be more outgoing, lighten up, be more fun. He tried. For years. Forced humor. Loud clothes. Quick opinions. But he always felt off. One day, he stopped trying to fit the mold. He leaned into his stillness, his depth, his natural quiet. He listened more, spoke less. But when he spoke, he was honest, grounded. And to his surprise, he started becoming the most sought-minded out person in the room. Not for noise, but for substance. Because people could feel, this man knows who he is. That's what changes the game. Here's how to build that kind of inner alignment. Step 1. Define your non-negotiable less. What are the values, behaviors, and standards you won't abandon no matter the crowd? Write them down. Revisit them. Let them guide your yes and no. Step 2. Notice when you bend. Catch the moments you adjust your personality for approval. Ask, was that really me? Or was that performance? Step 3. Practice integrity. In small moments, in a joke you disagree with, in a trend that doesn't feel right, in silence that feels honest, choose you. Step 4. Own your uniqueness without broadcasting it. You don't need to declare indifferent. You just need to live differently and let people notice. Authenticity isn't volume. It's alignment. And alignment is deeply attractive because it makes others feel safe to be themselves too. When you stop contorting, you give others permission to exhale. Now here's a paradox. You become more likable when you stop trying to be liked. You become more trustworthy when you stop seeking trust and simply live truthfully. You become more magnetic when you stop chasing attention and start walking in integrity. Ask yourself, do I abandon myself to fit in with certain people? Do I say yes when I mean no just to avoid judgment? Do I know the difference between who I am and who I perform as? Your answers reveal your edge. And if you feel disconnected from yourself, don't panic. Every moment is a chance to realign. One truth spoken. One boundary held. One breath before answering. That's all it takes to return. The most attractive people don't wear masks. They wear clarity. And the room feels it. So walk in that. Not forcefully. Not defensively. But unapologetically. Because you were never meant to be a replica. You were built for resonance. And that resonance? It begins the moment you stop shrinking and start standing still in who you are. So now you know. The most attractive energy isn't loud. It isn't performed. And it certainly isn't desperate. It's quiet. Steady. Earned. It's not built in the gym. It's built in the mind. Over these past 11 habits, we haven't just explored how to appear more attractive. We've explored how to become magnetic from the inside out by practicing presence, calm, restraint, clarity, and emotional mastery. This is what silent attraction is made of. Let's take a final look at what you've learned. You've learned that independence, not detachment, but authentic self-minus containment makes people feel safe around you. Because you're not trying to pull energy from them. You're already full already. You've seen how silent elegance isn't about clothes or wealth but composure. How the way you move, breathe, and respond becomes a signal of calm confidence. You've felt the power of invisible details, how a clean scent, deliberate body language, or simple grooming habits say everything without you needing to. You've practiced presence not just as a mindfulness tool, but as a gift. Because when you're truly present, people feel seen and they never forget that feeling. You've unlocked the quiet power of mystery, the art of not over-explaining, of letting people discover you slowly, deliberately, and with growing respect. You've cultivated cultural wisdom, expanding your mind to listen better, understand deeper, and connect across differences with grace and clarity. You've developed emotional restraint, learning to sit with heat without losing your cool, and how to let pause speak louder than impulse. You've embodied calm decisiveness, becoming the person who doesn't need to lead with force, but with grounded direction, the kind people naturally follow. You've learned to remain grounded in praise, to receive compliments with grace, but never lose yourself in applause. You've refined emotional economy, no longer responding to everything, no longer leaking energy. You protect your peace like a fortress. And finally, you've started becoming unapologetically yourself. Not because the world gave you permission, but because you gave it to yourself. And that is the highest form of attraction. Being so fully at home in your own skin that others feel more at home in theirs, just by being around you. That kind of person? Rare. Rooted. Unforgettable. No, be honest. This path? It's not always easy. There will be days you slip back into reactivity. Days you chase attention. Moments you doubt your presence because someone didn't respond the way you hoped. That's okay. What matters is imperfection, but return. Return to your stillness. Return to your center. Return to the version of you that doesn't need noise to feel valuable. Remember, you don't have to be impressive to be powerful. You don't have to be loud to be heard. You don't have to be everything, just yourself, fully aligned. And as you keep practicing these habits moment by moment, something will shift. People will start treating you differently. They'll listen more. They'll watch how you respond. They'll feel calmer around you, even if they can't explain why. And you'll realize you no longer need to win attention. Because you become the kind of person who attracts it naturally. Not because you chased it, but because you stopped chasing altogether and stood still in your truth. So here's a reminder, one final time. Speak less, but say more. React less, but feel deeper. Impress less, but express clearer. Chase less, but stand firmer. Apologize less for your truth and refine more of your presence. Let the world come to you not because you waited, but because you became someone worth discovering. And if this message helped you return to yourself, to your quiet power, don't keep it to yourself. Share this with someone who still thinks attraction is all about flash and noise. Because the truth is you. Silent strength is louder than the world will ever admit. And the ones who master it leave a legacy without saying a word. Stay grounded. Stay real. Stay unshakable you.